Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the introductory video to week 2 of the 6-week nutrition challenge here with Chef Theory Health. As I mentioned previously, the focus of this week is going to be prioritizing our protein intake. When I'm planning my meal and building my plate, I always start it with what protein am I going to be eating, and so that then builds my plate from there and my meal from there. Remember, with protein, it's a fundamental building block of all of our cells, not just for building muscle. It's also involved in the creation and building blocks of enzymes, neurotransmitters, hormones, and acts as a cofactor in liver detoxin function, as well as energy production and many other functions within our body. So with that, let's take a look at this playbook. We're going to take a look at quantity of protein, sources of protein, timing, and different types. So how much protein do we want? Well, this challenge for the week here and for the rest of the month is 100 grams per day of protein. Now, ideally, we might even want to get more in our body. And there's a lot of different advice varying from anywhere from 0.3 grams per pound of ideal body weight all the way over to 1.2 or 1.5 grams per pound of body weight. But we're starting simple. Just start with 100 grams per day. And then as we get that established and as you go forward, in future weeks and months, getting up to 1 gram per pound of ideal body weight is really the ideal level that I look for, especially if we're doing some resistance training. Now, I like to get my 100 grams in doses of close to at least 30 grams. So I listed 25 to 50 grams per meal / dose. I'm going to call it like per dose is how I think about it. And then I'm going to spread those meals out or spread those doses out in between 3 and 4 meals per day. Really 30 grams is what we want to shoot for. If we're getting 4 doses of 25 grams, that's pretty good. But that level of protein stimulates some growth pathways within our body to generate new protein materials within our body, whether it's muscles or skin cells or different organ parts. Just there's lots of cell turnover on a natural basis, on a daily basis within the body. And so creating new proteins to replace those old and dying cells is a natural process within the body. So that's where we're trying to stimulate that and provide the building blocks for that natural cell turnover. So how much? 100 grams, 25 to 50 grams per dose, spread between 3 to 4 meals. Now let's take a look. Let's take a look at portion size of proteins. And in general, like I said in a previous post last week, a palm-sized portion is what I'm looking for protein. And in general, a palm-sized portion of meat or fish will get us pretty close to the 30 grams of protein we're looking for. To give you just an idea, when you're out at a restaurant, most restaurant portions of protein are between 4 and 6 ounces by weight. 4 ounces, if you're just thinking about a visual, is closer to the size of a deck of cards. 6 ounces, closer to the size of a cell phone. A general cell phone. And so this is where I want to remind everybody of the reading labels video section of the video from last week. And this is where that part comes into play, because we want to be looking at the nutrition facts on any protein source, and it'll give you an idea of the serving size and how many grams of protein are in that serving size. And we can start to add those up. Now, I thought this was a good looking chart that we have here, because it gives us not only an idea of how much protein is in 100 gram serving of each one of these food sources, and 100 grams is closer to the 4 ounce serving size of the portions here. So it gives you an idea of how many grams per protein per 4 ounce serving of each one of these foods there are. But it also gives you an idea of the variety of foods that contain proteins. I realize not everybody even realizes what types of foods contain protein. Meat And animal-based sources of food are going to be our protein-rich sources, but there's also plant-based sources that can help kind of supplement those meat-based sources to bring us up to our daily goal. So we're looking across the board here. There's different fish, beef, poultry, eggs are a fantastic source, shellfish. And then over on the plant-based side, you've got tempeh, tofu are two of the most used sources with plant-based eaters. But also our whole grains, our beans, our seeds also provide a great source of protein to supplement our diets. So let's then take a look at timing. So how often do we want to get our protein sources? You know, like I said in the original post or original slide, you know, we're looking for the 25 to 50 grams per dose. And if we're going to spread that and keep it within our 12-hour eating window that we've been shooting for from week 1, you know, it averages out to about every 3 to 4 hours. We're going to get our dose of protein, shooting for, you know, close to 30 grams times 4 is 120 grams of protein for the day. You know, if it's only in 3 meals, then we're going to need to get closer to 30 to 40 grams of protein per serving, per meal. And if you reflect back to the previous slide there, you know, if you have a 6-ounce portion of salmon and you're eating it with some beans or rice, especially a whole grain rice source or quinoa, that's going to supplement a couple more grams on top of your, you know, 30 to 35 grams of protein you're getting from the 6-ounce portion of salmon. And that's going to bring you up to 40, maybe even closer to 50, depending on which vegetables you bring in there, have a little bit of protein in them too. When I'm eating my protein, and especially if I'm doing resistance training, I really prioritize that first meal after my resistance training session. I'm trying to get a nice large dose of protein. Excuse me. It doesn't have to be immediately following that, but within a couple hours of my resistance training session, I'm trying to get a nice whole food based source of protein and making sure I'm really getting above the 30, closer for myself to 50 grams, depending on your exercise level and your how big you are, you know, in between 30 and 50 grams there. But getting it in 3 to 4 doses allows us to get that large dose of protein to stimulate the growth signals in our body that we're looking for to generate new muscle and protein tissue within our body. But it also allows us for our blood sugars to balances to come down and regulate themselves in between meals. So giving a rest period of not eating in between meals is the ideal situation we're looking for there. Now, as we move on to types of protein, variety is really what's key for me. Now, I will look to do a couple of other posts throughout the week here, and I want to focus on 2 different things to make sure you guys understand. And one's going to be about the importance of proper digestion to make sure we're absorbing all of these proteins, and really what the building block of a protein is an amino acid. And so absorbing those amino acids. So the second video or the second post I want to do as educational through this week will be about amino acids, which those building blocks of proteins. So protein structure, how it breaks down, and then how those amino acids are used by the body, specifically more than just building muscle. So I do want to do some future posts there. But for right now, we're going to focus on variety and getting 100 grams of protein. All right, that's the focus of this week. And I also want to make sure we look at the secondary goal of this week, which is bringing in a collagen-based protein source 3 days a week. Now, myself, again, we're looking from like what's our starting goal to what's our ideal. I try to get a collagen-based protein source almost daily is really what my goal is. But starting off with, let's just go 3 days a week, because a lot of people aren't getting any collagen at all, and that's really going to lead us to some nutrient deficiency long term. It really contributes to the breakdown of our digestive system, to the poor detox capabilities of our liver, to joint and connective tissue breakdown and pain. So it's an important protein source within our body. Where we can get it from, bone broth is a fantastic source. Gelatin, which is the base of Jell-O, is a great source. Now, Jell-O is typically full of sugars and artificial dyes, so I don't go with that. But gelatin itself, you can use for a couple different ideas. I'm going to give you guys some recipes throughout the week with gelatin if you want to have fun. And then collagen protein powders. Now, that's really the base of where I get mine from, and I will show you guys a post of the collagen powder that I do take. So the collagen powder is where I get most of my source from. I'm also going to get it then from bone broths. I like to make homemade bone broths. It saves money and has it readily available for me. And then I'll have some fun with gelatin sources when I want to make some little treats for myself and the family. Now, some other, for me, a secondary goal is getting marine-based sources. So seafood, shellfish, and actually seaweed and seaweed products such as nori. The wrapper for sushi is actually a seaweed-based product. Another fantastic supplement that I use quite often, and I'll get more in depth into in the last week when we're talking about micronutrients, vitamins, minerals, and supplements, is spirulina, which is actually an algae powder. Now, that is a great marine source, actually, of protein and also a bunch of other healthy elements. So, but anyways, getting variety. So not just doing chicken or not just doing beef. Let's mix in some seafood sources if we can. Some other great sources of protein. Eggs, then, are the third thing that I really try to focus on bringing in. Eggs have some fantastic micronutrients in them. They have a great fat to protein ratio. So if you can tolerate eggs, I really like to bring those in a couple days a week as well. Now, I also like to make sure I'm getting some nice plant-based sources, through my whole grains, through beans of any kind. Lentils are going to be the number one protein-rich source in that category. Garbanzo beans, black beans, kidney beans, also great sources. Tempeh is a fantastic plant-based source. It is typically used as a meat substitute, but it's much better than any of the artificial Beyond Meat and that type of stuff. Tempeh is a much more natural product that's much better for you. Nuts and seeds are also very rich in protein for a plant-based source. However, beware with your nuts and seeds. They're very calorie dense as well. So we're going to use those sparingly, but I do get those in on almost a daily basis. But again, we're using those sparingly. Now, dairy. Dairy is a controversial subject when it comes to nutrition. I myself don't eat a lot of dairy, but dairy done properly can be a great source of protein, especially if we're going to stick with our yogurts and cottage cheese. Remember, shoot for unsweetened when we're going with these guys. And with all of my protein sources, it's one area that I try to prioritize grass-fed, organic, and free range. We'll get into the importance of that when we get to our detox week, which is in a couple of weeks here. But for me, I prioritize grass-fed, organic, and free range. Sometimes that gets more expensive. And so if we're then trying to say, okay, well, I can't buy everything grass-fed, organic, and free range, which ones should I start with? I say the higher the fat content of that product, the more important it is to go grass-fed and organic. So a chicken breast, which is a very low-fat piece of meat, might be less important than, say, an egg, which has a higher fat content in it. So eggs is where I'm going to start when I say, okay, what's the first thing I'm going to buy free range and organic? It's eggs. What's the second thing I'm going to buy? It's going to be dairy. What's the third thing I'm going to make sure I'm buying free range, organic, and grass-fed? Is going to be my ground meats because they're usually a higher fat content, or my beef, and then from there my marine-based sources. So that's kind of the order of operations I might go for choosing that we can't do everything free range and organic. I'm going to start with my eggs. So I hope this acts as a great guide just to get you guys started. And remember, I try to give you some details here, but always back it up a little bit. Keep it simple. We're just shooting for 100 grams per day, and we're looking for a variety of sources. We're looking to get our collagen in, and there's a couple ways we can do that. If a powder is the easiest way for you, then that's how we get started. And then we build from there, guys. Keep it simple, keep it easy, and stay tuned, and good luck this week.